we're going to read Higurashi no naku. Hold on, let me turn down the noise. Oh my god, hold on. I want to make sure that I don't want the audio too loud when I do this. Okay, let's start. I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've been busy. And I'm sorry if there's like a lot of noise or something. My house isn't very soundproof and it's the most annoying thing ever. So, let us continue. We will start from the quick save. The two of them were clearly breathing quietly, glancing around to make sure nobody knew they were going there, as they crouched before the entrance to a wooden store-like building. Wait, Shion, could this be what you wanted to show me? Kei-chan, you can see Rika-chama's dance any year, but you won't ever get another chance like this, okay? I had thought the Sonozaki sisters each had their own personalities, but at times like this, they seemed all too similar. I'm going back. Don't call me for something like this again. If you move now, they'll see us! At our noisy argument, Takano suddenly turned around. Oh my, who might that be? We held our breaths and tried to wait it out, but it seemed like Takano was now acutely aware of our presence. Shio and I exchanged glances and then gave up and climbed out from behind the bush. Well, hello there. The moon sure is beautiful tonight, isn't it? Why do they all say that? Why do they always use that phrase? My, if it isn't Shion and Maibara. Good evening. Yes, the moon certainly is pretty. What's this, Keiji? You sure are smart, you know that? Having a secret date in a place like this? And I guess we accidentally interrupted something important. You're the ones who are meeting up secretly. Tomitake and Takano laughed to themselves. It got on my nerves for some reason. Wait, so you two weren't having a little rendezvous then? Of course we weren't. Though I don't dislike that kind of romance. Unfortunately, this wasn't the location of rendezvous either of you would want to see. Sorry for not living up to your expectations. If this isn't really a rendezvous, then what were you doing? Tomitake, were you messing around with a padlock on the door just now? Huh? After she said that, I looked at the two of them again, and I definitely saw it. They were hunched in front of a warehouse door fiddling with that pretty heavy-looking padlock. Guess we've been found out, huh? We were trying to break into the warehouse, but don't tell anyone, right? You mean Saiguden. You know, saying, I don't know, because it's a little confusing for me, like, because you could mean any warehouse, so giving it a special name or something kind of makes it so that I don't get confused when I would read it, so I'll try to call it Saiguden or something, I don't know. Depending, okay? Don't tell anyone! Are you thieves or something? I demanded unthinkingly, just because of how absently Tomitake was grinning. Nah, never. Thieves are people who steal things, right? It's not like we were trying to take anything out of here. I see. Then why are you trying to unlock the door? This is the forbidden storehouse for the ritual tools. They say only the Furude family and a mere handful of others are allowed in it. Saiguden. I'm just going to say that. It's easier. I took a few steps back and looked at the entire warehouse. Sorry. It certainly looked like one. Built removed from any signs of people, almost as if in secret. It was filthy, revealing how little it was ever opened. And it was built to be durable, giving it a strange, overpowering impression. Now that I looked at it more closely, it was certainly different than normal warehouses. Oh, well, I don't know. This place, they're called ritual implements. Basically, this is a warehouse where they store such tools used in rituals. Well, more accurately, maybe it's a temple where the implements are enshrined. The ritual Rika is using for the offertory dance was inside here until today. Of course, if anyone but the Furude family enters, they bring impurity into it. So absolutely no one is allowed a single step inside of it. It's a sanctuary. Shouldn't we absolutely not be coming to a place like this then? However, Takano was wearing a childlike expression, an innocent smile at best, and a terribly cruel grin at worst. I told you I was researching Hinamizawa's folk tales and legends. I have an interest in them, didn't I? A lot of the answers to the questions I'm curious about are hidden away inside here. I've waited all this time until today for this chance. A chance? Everybody's eyes were fixed on the dance at the shrine grounds today. This was the ultimate blind spot. I see. I didn't know you had lockpicking skills, Tomitake. Stop it. I don't want to be doing this, okay? Sorry for taking you along with me, but this was all thanks to you, Jiro. I really am grateful. Sheesh. This is the only time, understand, Takano? I don't want to be sneaking into places like this. You really are a good person, Jiro. Tomitake undid the padlock and placed it to the side. It's open. Thank you. At long last. Takano gulped. With an unusually excited air about her, she gave the heavy door a shove. The sharp smell of mold and dust flowed from the gap in the doors. I had claimed curses didn't exist, but in this situation, I could believe in them. If we went into such a holy place with our shoes on, it feels like we could be punished somehow. How about it? Your accomplices too. You came all the way here, so why not come in and take you a tour? It'll be a little field trip to the Museum of Precious Cultural Artifacts that conceal the secret history of Hinamizawa. It's only open today. We're not accomplices or anything. Aren't you interested, though? Come on, let's take a peek, Shion said predictably, linking her arm with mine. But we definitely shouldn't be doing this. This is a holy warehouse, isn't it? You said the ritual implements, right? I really feel like we shouldn't go in. I'm part of the Sonozaki family, so I have a good guess as to what we'll find in there. But I want you to see it too, Kei-chan. You want to show something to me? I thought it was just a ploy, but Shion's eyes looked entirely serious. Of course she was the sort who would lie with a straight face. Of course, I was an average boy, too. My curiosity was at least twice that of a normal person. Sleeping forbidden treasures, never to leave this warehouse. Chances like this don't come around too often. If I had to choose, then I want to see. Until the locked door is open, though. I don't know about this. If you're not interested, Kei-chan, then you can leave now. I think you'll wonder about it later, though. Tomitake spoke after listening to our discussion. Leaving himself sat down on the stairs to take a short rest. I'll keep watch here. Go in and check it out with them. I'm not too interested, but it might be pretty interesting for a young guy like you, Keiichi. He said, laughing mischievously. There's no ill will in his laughter. Tomitake, do you know what's in here? Kind of. Takano told me all about it. Must be a pain to have to go along with your companion's unique hobbies, huh? Tomitake didn't answer that, only responding with a pained smile. Takano had this kind of scary air about her, like she'd drop absolutely everything else for something that she had an interest in and go straight for it, but Tomitake, on the other hand, seemed like the gold standard of what a normal person should be. Having him tell me so frankly to go check it out suddenly made the guilt feel lighter. Okay, but just a little. If it's not interesting, I'm leaving. You got it! Shion gave me another Mion-like wink. Looks like we're decided. Shall we go inside? Jiro, we'll leave this to you. Tomitake waved his hand to see us off. The inside was pitch black, but Takano turned on the battery-powered lantern she bought, revealing a pretty cramped front room. It's so dark in here. Everyone, careful not to trip over anything. I appreciate the concern. Okay, doorman, keep a good watch. We're shutting the door now. Takano smiled spitefully as if leaving Tomitake out of something fun and began to close the door. Man, alright everyone, have fun. There was a low and heavy and loud noise. We were completely cut off from the outside world and covered in the silent darkness. Takano's lantern was the only light we had. It'll be fine. It's an outdoor lantern with backup batteries inside. It won't go out or anything. It looks like Takano noticed my uneasy expression. I couldn't help but blush a little and avert my gaze. Deeper inside, there was a heavy and old but sturdy door with solemn decorations on it. It was the last door sealing away what was within. Strange how it has an antechamber even though it's just a warehouse, isn't it? I believe it's set up this way so that you can open one door at a time, never letting the room with all the tools being seen from the outside. Takano explained this, awfully impressed by the construction. But still, it's really dark in here. Huh? That. Over there, I spotted a circuit breaker hanging from a clump of wire clumsily attached to the wall. Oh, here, isn't this a light switch or something? I flipped the biggest switch I can find, and with a click, the pitch-black room was illuminated by an old bare light bulb. Everyone scrunched up their faces at the sun's strobe-like brightness. Don't! Before she even finished, Shion slapped my hand and flipped the switch back. There was another loud click. The room was returned to darkness, with only a lantern for illumination. Ow! You can't, Kei-chan! We snuck in here, remember? If you turn on the light, it might give us away. I was scolded by Shion fairly harshly. It looks like she was worried whether someone had seen the momentary light. It's all right. It was only for a moment. Takano remained a relaxed adult. It seemed like she was confident she could talk her way out of something if someone did see us. Let's go in. Here we go. There. The heavier door opened, and this time it wasn't just the dust that came out with the air. There was also a nasty smell. One smell was like opening a dust-filled cupboard in the back of the kitchen that hadn't been opened in years. The other smell was a nasty one. It was hard to explain, but it's like the raw odor of a fish market. From how the sound echoed, this room felt far larger than the first. Takano held up her lantern and revealed the contents of the expansive room. Whoa! The back wall of the storehouse, right in front of us, was the Buddha-like holy object, standing there, looking down at us. I was taken aback by its unseen force, lit up by the slender beam of the lantern. That is the guardian god of Hinamizawa, Oyashiro. It's far grander than the one at the shrine. Oyashiro. So this is the spirit protecting Hinamizawa, the one guarding the holy land of Hinamizawa from the impurities of the outside world, and the one delivering punishment after punishment upon those who had attempted to sully the land with a dam construction. It looks like there are far more tools stored here than I thought, but... This is so sad. None of them have been... Oops, this is Takano's line. Let me try that again. It looks like there are far more tools stored here than I thought, but... This is so sad. None of them have been maintained. How unfortunate that they're in such a state. Even in the dim light, I could see a lot of strange objects lining the walls, ceilings, and shelves. Takano, speaking as if in a trance, was infatuated by the various implements filling the dark room. They weren't very festival-like or traditional, but instead, this was more like the workshop of a blacksmith or a carpenter. There were a lot of large wooden and metal tools packed in here. Put it bluntly, it was all pretty boring stuff. I'd imagine there'd be a lot more artistic things in here from the Heian period, but these are a far cry from being cultural artifacts. My expression betrayed my dashed hopes. They caught on right away. Oh. Is this not interesting for you? I'm not into literature or art, so I can look at this stuff, but I don't really understand its value. Keiichi, you really do look like you don't get it. I guess that's only natural. Takano reached into a paper bag that she'd been holding the whole time and took out a worn scrapbook and began to flip through it. Then, just for you, Keiichi, I will tell you an old story. It's a common tale in this region. If you go to the library, it would be even on their recommended reading list. Telling stories in such a dark, creepy place. She must have been a horror story in mind. Shion's face bellied nothing but calm. If she had the same personality as Mion, she had found fault with me being scared. I'll endure it for now and pretend to be calm.
Okay. Alright. I'll read it.
After confirming that I was going to be quiet and listen, she began to speak softly, like a kindergarten teacher reading a picture book.
Long, long ago, in a certain village in the mountains, there was a swamp. This swamp was very, very deep. Some even called it bottomless. People said it was connected to hell, the land of demons. The rumors said that it was deeper than the ocean, that anyone it swallowed would sink into the underworld, a bottomless swamp. Its name was Onikafuchi.
Wait, I thought back to the story I heard about yesterday about the sacrifices sinking into the bottomless swamp. Could that be the swamp she's talking about? So then the village was Hinamizawa, right?
You catch on quickly. That's right. Though it was called Onikafuchi Village at the time.
Onikafuchi Village. That's a pretty inauspicious name. It evokes quite the image, doesn't it? I hear that the name was changed in the Meiji period. The name of the swamp connected to hell was called Onikafuchi, which meant the demon's abyss. The true name of this village, Hinamizawa, was Onikafuchi Village.
The villagers belonged to that abyss, or to hell, in other words. They lived their lives worshipping the swamp, said to connect to it. But then one day, demons began to appear one after another from deep in the swamp. The villagers feared that hell was overflowing. The demons mercilessly attacked the villagers. They could only watch in fear. They could do no more than hide themselves and tremble.
So did someone exterminate them?
Unfortunately, there is no Momotaro or Superman in this fairy tale.
Then did they get the whole village together to fight them?
Heavens, no. The villagers weren't nearly strong enough to fight on equal terms with the demons.
Then the only recourse would be to flee the village.
They couldn't do that either. To the villagers, it was their beloved homeland. It didn't matter how terrifying the demons. They wouldn't have run away so easily.
Then what'd they do? Wouldn't they just get wiped out? Unable to fight, unable to run. All they could do was wait for the village to be destroyed.
Then, when everyone had lost hope, their god, Oyashiro, descended unto them.
I see. So Oyashiro came from the sky and beat all the demons then. You're such a boy, Kei-chan. You always jump straight to using force to resolve things. Shion sighed. A little annoyed. Embarrassed, I held my tongue. It's okay, Keiichi. Same here. Also, screw the car that was like zooming. Like, you don't need to be this loud at like 10 p.m. at night. Okay. Anyway.
The thing about Oyashiro, he wasn't a violent god who would beat them up like you're saying. He was a kind god filled with love and benevolence. The strength of Oyashiro descended from the heavens couldn't be compared to that of the demons. They didn't even fight. They simply prostrated themselves before his radiant authority. Oyashiro urged them to go back to hell from whence they came, but the demons wept and challenged him, saying they could never return. The world of the demons, too, has harsh commandments. They claim they had been banished from hell.
Demons, who didn't have a place to go either, in hell, or in the human world. Huh. It kind of makes me think of certain other things in the story that happened later on. Of course, they were at fault for attacking the village. They deeply reflected on it, and they were sorry.
As the villagers conversed among themselves, little by little they came to pity the demons, and, after talking with everyone in the village, they decided to live alongside them.
A lot of fairy tales have them being exterminated or driven away, but you often don't hear one where they live in peace. You're right. Demons are supposed to symbolize all evils. A story where they decide to live together with humans is certainly strange.
When the demons first heard the villagers' invitations, they dialed their ears but soon burst into tears of joy. The villagers had given them a place to live. It was said that in payment for this good deed, the demons shared their many kinds of powers and secrets with the villagers. Oyashiro was very pleased with this happy exchange. He gave the demons the bodies of humans so that they would be indistinguishable from the villagers. He himself decided to stay on the surface and watch over the everlasting peace between them. A land in which man, demon, and God lived together.
I had the thought the word demon was a noun, meaning evil that needs to be exterminated. A god may have mediated for them, but you don't often hear happy endings like that both sides were living in harmony. I see. I guess it's kind of interesting.
Although the normal fairy tale ends there, it was revised quite a bit during the Edo period into a much longer story. After that, the humans and demons intermixed, and eventually there was no difference between them.
So the demons ended up disappearing? No, not at all. Half of them just stayed as they were. The knowledge the villagers had received from the demons basically made them into something inhuman, what people call transcendent. They were well aware the power they had was heresy, and as those below worshipped them, they lived out their lives in secrecy.
This story is the root of many derivative tales and pieces of fiction. It is the foundation, the basis.
What do you mean by root? She means the part about the villagers having demon blood. What I mean is all the legends from around here are based on the premise that the villagers are descended from demons. There was a hint of amusement in Shion's face when she said that. It was like she wanted to say that she, too, had demon blood in her. Is there any proof, though? Maybe it's somehow rooted in historical fact beyond just fairy tales.
Oh. Maibara, do you believe that demons really did come out of the swamp and breed with humans?
It's not that I don't believe it, but she said demon. She meant the ones from hell, but in ancient Japan, the word wasn't necessarily used to know only that, right? The more well-known use involves the drifting foreigner theory. As the story goes, Westerners who were shipwrecked in the nearby seas had markedly different customs that they were called demons. Japanese people were relatively similar in appearance to other Asians, but everything about those from the West was different: their physiques, their faces, and their skin color. In Japan, terms like red demon and blue demon evoke images, especially of Westerners. Lacking skin pigments, Westerners would sunburn easily and turn red. Being fair-skinned, I think blood vessels appearing on their skin would also look blue too. A handful of accidental aliens would drift into Japan and came under persecution, being called demons. They would flee into the mountains to survive and turn to bandit groups and attack villagers for food and the like.
How does that explanation sound? Maybe it's a bit childish.
Takano gave me a weird smile when having come up with such an impromptu hypothesis. I unconsciously followed it up with self-depreciation. Still, she didn't smile as if to make fun of me.
It's not ridiculous. There are a lot of people who subscribe to the drifting foreigner theory. Even so, nobody actually knows what happened. Were there groups of foreigners who had turned to the banditry, or were they really demons who had come from the bottom of the world?
Then, Takano, which one do you believe?
The truth of the matter aside, I'd rather believe the more fantastic explanation. It's more fun that way, isn't it?
Her answer made her sound a wee bit like a romanticist. Here I thought she'd reject unrealistic stories like that.
Now then, this is where the fun begins.
Takano brought an end to her storytelling and waits for a moment as if to tantalize us. Suddenly, Shion looked around as if something had caught her eye. Her head bobbed to and fro like she was making sure nothing had happened. What's wrong, Shion? I'm sorry. Please don't worry about it. Shion pretended as though nothing had happened. Takano had also made sure nothing had happened and cleared her throat and broached the next subject.
I explained that half the villagers have demon blood. That blood, they actually say it's the blood of the kind of demon that eats people.
Man-eating demons? That escalated quickly.
That blood still runs through the villagers' veins. They say that sometimes the blood awakens from its slumber.
I thought the fairy tale had a happy ending, but humans and demons living in peace. But it began to suddenly change into a brutal, bloody story.
Well, they eat people. They say that every decade or so they can't help but want to feast on human flesh. The villagers can't eat other villagers, so when this happens, it says that they descended of the human villages and conducted onikakushi.
What's an onikakushi?
Broadly speaking, it's when demons kidnap someone, when a person is demoned away. They say that the villagers of Onikafuchi would overwhelm unfortunate human villages in order to kidnap sacrifices.
Takano's explanation was plain and simple, but when I imagined what it must have been like, it was terrifying. They lose their human reason. The villagers turn into real demons en masse. They attack the villages they loathe, in the dirty world the masses below, and then they kill and eat their sacrifices. So there are no demons from... Wait. Yeah, damn it. Let me try again. So they're no different from demons after all! What did Oyashiro do? Wasn't he supposed to be staying in the village and watching over them?
Oyashiro knew about it, of course. Onikakushi isn't indiscriminate. The villagers apparently never kidnapped anyone other than the sacrifices decided upon their god. In the text, it's usually one or two people.
A village inhabited by those both human and inhuman. It was like heartwarming episodes' colors had inverted like a negative film, revealing the painful and ugly truth.
So on the nights when they raided villages, they would feast on their kidnapped sacrifices, which is why the nights came to be known as Watanagashi.
Watanagashi. Tonight's festival was Watanagashi. I just couldn't reconcile the fun festival with the horrible tale Takano was telling me. Watanagashi, well, wasn't it about giving thanks to the futons that we use over winter or something? Kei-chan, Wata has another meaning, you know. It means entrails, or intestines. Shion, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Specifically fish entrails. I believe, I've heard that Japanese vocabulary, for a long time they didn't have, words for organs and stuff. Because they were probably aware of, hearts and, intestines and stuff. And I believe it wasn't until, certain Western doctors, they came over, that they decided, because for a long time Japanese people, they studied, the Chinese medicine stuff, because of the Shinosphere or something like that. You know, the Sinosphere. And, so they did that. And that's why they ended up learning that over time. So, yeah. And... Okay, because, remember, they, would cut open fish entrails, and that's how they kind of know some of the organs. But, the Japanese people didn't, this is what I learned in classes, that touching dead bodies is taboo. You have, it's kind of like you have these untouchable people dealing with corpses. It's kind of like, Indian caste system thing, where, and stuff like that, you know? And there's villages that have to be hidden on maps and stuff, that have to actually be you don't want to actually know like their old names and stuff. It's not like this is it's kind of based off of those old things. Like this is like something that does that is kind of like that. Like okay, that's what I learned. Like you want to like things like that. Okay. What to say? But yeah, that's just what I learned in class one time. That's it. That's all I really know. Okay, I don't really know that much. Entrails. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Like fish guts. Wait, what? Like a jigsaw puzzle, the fun times I had today and Takano's grotesque tale clicked together in my mind. Watanagashi, so gut spilling instead of cotton drifting. I didn't think saying that would ever feel so nauseating.
Yes, it's as you imagine, Maibara. Right now, the Watanagashi festival might just be somewhat an early summer festival occurring every June, but it used to be different. It used to be a ghastly, cannibalistic feast held on the night the villagers had collected their unfortunate dinner.
That can't be true! I had no real reason to say that. But I couldn't help it.
Maibara, you said that Watanagashi is a ritual about purifying food tones, correct? What do you think about the food tone filled with cotton with wata represent?
Futons and futones! They're beds! They're things we're sleeping in! What else could they possibly represent? I was rattling on desperately, attempting to deny the horrible festival that Takano was describing. Deep down, however, I found myself understanding all too well what she meant. Futones stuffed with cotton. If cotton represented entrails in both pronunciations and meaning, then entrail-filled futones would have to mean humans.
Why don't you think back to the offertory dance Rika performed? Do you know what she was doing up there?
No, I don't! I didn't even watch the whole thing anyway! Shh! Kei-chan, you're getting too worked up. Shion grabbed one of my ears, reminding me that this wasn't somewhere I should raise my voice. Even so, I still can't suppress this agitation I feel.
Rika was carrying a festival hoe. You've probably realized it already, but that's not a hoe for plowing fields. It's a tool for dissecting human bodies.
I didn't see the dance all the way through, so I don't know what kind of performance Rika was putting on after I left. When I told this to Takano, she kindly explained Rika's dance to me. To summarize what she had said, after what I'd seen, Rika would pierce the futones with that hoe, cut them open, pull out the cotton inside. She cut the cotton out one bit at a time and set it afloat. That's the kind of ritual it was.
Broadly speaking, it was quite the bombastic ceremony where they rip out the guts, throw them into a basin, and then the ritual was over. It's thought that after the words, the villagers, each with a different role, dismantled the flesh, piece by piece, and feasted upon it.
At Takano's strangely happy giggle, I felt for some reason violent displeasure. Rika, every day during our lunch break, she'd take a rice-pounding mallet into the schoolyard. She'd worked so hard, sweating bullets, to practice for the offertory dance she'd done today. And all that effort, all that work, Takano disgraced it, even though she worked so hard to practice for today. Takano, I think you should choose your words more carefully. Kei-chan's pretty naive, so please don't tease him so much. A moment before I opened my mouth to express how angry I was, Shion stopped me. Shion must have been fully aware of how that story made me feel.
I'm sorry. I thought you'd like a story with that sort of shock value since you're a boy.
Takano spoke without a hint of malice, as she smiled gracefully. After hearing all that, did you figure out what kind of stuff this in the Saikuden, Kei-chan? See, look! Shion pointed out the walls, vaguely illuminated by the lantern's light. There was... Mere moments ago, they hadn't held my interest. They were just boring-looking tools lined up on the shelves. Ugh. All those uninteresting tools I didn't understand how to use, they all suddenly took a new meaning. I couldn't help but let out a groan. At first they looked like carpentry tools, like chisels or planes. However, when I thought back, I'd seen those pictures of these tools somewhere before. Yeah, they came up in Japanese history in a textbook. Yes, on the page introducing the Katai Shinso, or the new text on anatomy. These sort of things, they're printed realistically in the literature of Germany, capital of the medical world. These aren't carpentry tools. These strangely shaped tools, they're for dissection. Everyone knows that in the Edo period they would dissect the corpses of those who had been put to death in order to gain knowledge about Western medical techniques. Illustrations of the dissection tools they used at the time came up in textbook supplements. The things hung up on this wall all looked exactly the same as those.
If you want a scarier way of looking at it, think of them as cooking utensils.
Takano holding up the lantern. The only light source in the wall led us along the wall. She had only the light. I had to walk after her, whether I liked it or not. Look. Takano illuminated a coiled chain which left a bigger impression than the other things we saw. The chain itself was nothing unusual, but further along it were metal fetters that were like hinges, clearly meant for binding people. Kei-chan! Look at that! Shion tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a restraining table that was clearly shaped like a person. My spine froze. My blood felt like it was turning into sherbet as it crawled up my back. On each of the joints were things like chains and iron balls attached. It was like the table was searching for its next sacrifice, ready to spread their arms wide and close them in.
It's probably a chopping block. I think you strap the sacrifice down to prep them for eating.
The words chopping block sent a jolt through my body. When I looked more closely, there were many dark slices carved into it as though from a knife or a saw. They were the most clear-cut signs of usage you could ask for. It proved these tools weren't just for show, they were used for their original purpose. If someone was strapped tightly on this table, they probably wouldn't be able to move even a muscle. Their guts would be defenseless. You'd take one of these airy cooking knives lined up over there and stab them with it. And then you'd slice open their belly and dissect them? I heard the stories, but this is incredible. Before coming in here, she had mentioned she had a good guess of what she was inside, but it seems it exceeded her imagination.
There's still more. How about it? More fascinating than a wax museum, isn't it?
Takano had held this happy expression like she was visiting a toy store for the first time. I don't get it. This Takano Mio person has nerves of steel. Are these bizarre, grotesque objects that fascinating to her? I, for one, was not enjoying myself. I'll be frank. This is all too weird for me. Still, there was something even more horrifying than all this. That'd be none other than Takano herself. Takano holding the lantern, giving off such a thin beam of light. If she suddenly turned it off, then what would I do next? The next moment, everything went totally dark. That's why I was scared. Takano had the only light. And anyway, I was scared. At some point, Shion had started holding onto my shirt sleeve. It was a little annoying to walk like that, but I didn't shake her off. That minor sensation allowed me to feel the presence of an ally here and now. Before we even walked halfway through the storehouse, the air felt on my skin changed completely. These cruel tools lined up, all crammed together in this place. Some were horrible ones made to take away the sacrifice's freedom, and some more of these tools were meant to efficiently disassemble and prepare the bodies for consumption. Those were just the things I understood. There were plenty of other strange objects that I couldn't even guess the purpose of. And now that I was here, I didn't have the slightest desire to hear all the details about what sort of terrifying reasons they were meant to be used for. At the very least, they were all completely different from the sort of clean, simple killing function of a katana. Tools to kill people were obviously constructed in such a way that they would kill people, but that was the goal, that the person they used them on would obviously end up dead. The kinds of tools here, however, were different. The tools that were here were for cutting people, for crushing them, for boiling them and cooking them, and for grinding them. They were tools of torture. They weren't made to kill people. People dying was just an incidental result. Actually, they might not even kill them. If the sacrifices could die during such a horrifying ritual process, that would be nice, but they don't even die in the end. They remain in a state of hellish pain. Perhaps they were only being allowed to live. Only now in this moment did I fully realize just how terrifying and fearsome that difference was.
People, you see. Most of these wouldn't kill them if used properly.
Takano, as if reading my mind, displayed a shocking smile. Burning at the stake.
The famous method of execution for witches will kill the person immediately. When the body suffers extreme burns on the skin all over, the decomposition of the skin's chemical makeup produces poison-like symptoms and causes an immense shock to the victim. Though I suppose it's still very cruel compared to the guillotine. You have to wait far longer for that to happen.
She describes such horrors in a strangely medical way. Shion immediately answered the question I had. Takano is a nurse. There's a saying that nothing can scare a doctor. I guess that's true.
Oh, and also, there was a method of execution in ancient Rome where they would grill the person. Just like a barbecue, they would cover the person in wire netting and slowly cook them over a charcoal fire.
To think of the memories of when I went to a day camp with my family would come rushing back now of all times so vividly.
That is what it was like. Apparently they wouldn't die too easily for some reason. According to one source, even if they had roasted one side of a person to a crisp for an entire night, they would still be cautious and able to speak fluently.
That's insane. You'd grill someone the whole day and they'd still be conscious.
It says that in ancient Rome, famous for their executions, the thought of plenty of ways to execute someone while having the victim stay alive as long as possible. Among them, there was one method where they would cut open and pull out the intestines like sausages, put them up with a winch, and put them on public display.
Shion was behind me, clinging to me. Not just because she was scared, she was protecting her stomach.
You would think someone with their intestines pulled out would die instantly, right? Actually, as long as you do it tenderly and thoroughly, it's apparently possible to pull them all out while the person is still conscious.
I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. It was like my organs were coiling up just from Takano's stare.
Though pulling them out with such a winch was a rather exaggerated method. In a more barbaric way, they might slice open the gut, then cut the intestines out, and throw them everywhere. It's quite imaginable they did dreadful things like that too, isn't it? However, those being put to death are still conscious. It must be far more terrifying than painful.
She spoke with pleasure, as if she had come here on a sightseeing trip. I heard Shion gulping multiple times near my ears.
Perhaps Hinamizawa, or rather Onigafuchi village, did something like that for the Watanagashi festival. Listen. If you try hard, can't you hear it?
I wanted nothing more than not to hear anything at all. So why? Why only at times like these do I begin to hear things I shouldn't be able to? Takano, having realized she scared Shion and I enough at this point, smiled soothingly. Then she turned on her heel, raised the lantern, and began to walk again. If Takano left us here, we'd get even further away from the light. Shion and I, no matter how scared we were forced to follow Takano along with her field trip to this ritual storehouse.
I suppose we've seen a bit of everything. See, this place is interesting, isn't it?
She says, raising the lantern high in the center of the storehouse. Oops, what the frick? Sorry. The dim light didn't change, but for some reason it felt like I was able to see all these horrible tools at once. Kei-chan! Look up! Shion stammered while grabbing the nape of my neck. Ugh. I couldn't tell because it was so dark, but there were a lot more tools hanging from the ceiling as well. They all looked like they were made of iron bars, but then I figured it out. Cages. For cages, they were very small. Cramped cages. Just for one, like a casket. If you got locked up in there. No, you wouldn't get locked up inside it. It was another tool meant for restraining people, where the iron bars would squeeze you tightly. So many big and large things of all shapes were hanging down. Takano's mention of execution by grilling crosses my mind. They weren't just surrounded on all sides by these terrifying instruments, things crowning the ceiling, or even hanging over our heads.
There are many of these sorts of bird cages among European torture devices. I'm surprised to see them in Japan as well.
Kei-chan! Is there something in here? A person? A mummy? Where? Shion desperately pointed to one of the many human-sized bird cages hanging from the ceiling. I couldn't tell which one she meant. Being that dark, there wasn't any way you could tell if something was there in the first place.
I don't see anything. You're sure you're not seeing things?
Shion didn't seem convinced, but without means to confirm for ourselves, we couldn't do much but wonder.
Maibara, after seeing this, have you come to believe in all of it? The countless terrible rituals passed down in Hinamizawa.
It's got nothing to do with believing in them. Now that I've been shown the real thing like this, there's no possible way to deny it.
Even the nations of Europe, with all their beautiful landscapes and legends, there was a maelstrom during the terrible witch hunts in the Dark Ages. It's well known the era gave birth to countless gruesome forms of torture and execution. Japan was the same way. Didn't it have its own era of hellscape, like torturous feasts because of religious suppression and things of that nature? Hinamizawa itself had such a period. It had such much history behind it. Even in Europe, land of the witch hunts, that was all far in the past, no more than a series of historical events, and at this age, nothing that abnormal would ever happen. That must apply to Hinamizawa as well. Just as Europe had its Dark Age, Hinamizawa had one too. That's how this should be taken. Even if these things all really happened in Hinamizawa, they're all long past. They don't have anything to do with the people living in Hinamizawa right now.
Oops, sorry, that meant to be Keiichi's line. Hold on. Even if all these things happened in Hinamizawa, they're all long past. They don't have anything to do with the people living in Hinamizawa right now. Okay. Oops. Wait, can I try that again? Just as Europe had its Dark Age, Hinamizawa had one too. That's how this should be taken. Even if these things all really happened in Hinamizawa, they're all long past. They don't have anything to do with the people living in Hinamizawa right now.
Maibara, you really do like this village.
It didn't sound like she was making fun of me. Takano gave me a light smile. Takano, you're researching whether those customs survive into the present. You are, right? She had suggested something that made my heart leap into my throat. Are you telling me that all these horrible things are still going on even today?
What I'm about to tell you is a secret, alright? I told Shion because you're an understanding person, but the other villagers don't want to hear it. If things go awry, I could be ganged up on and punished.
Shion flashed a devilish smile as if reveling in the immorality of it.
Maibara, you keep it a secret too, okay? If this gets out, I could suffer Oyashiro's curse, or be made into a sacrifice. If it's the curse, then I wonder what kind of death there'll be this year. If it's a sacrifice, then will I be thrown into Onigafuchi swamp while still alive? It is tonight, you know, the night of Oyashiro's curse.
Takano said, bringing her face right up to ours, as if to say she had the choice. She'd rather suffer the curse. That was what she seemed to be implying. Takano took a fairly worn-out notebook out of her paper bag and began flipping through its pages. There were all sorts of references and newspaper clippings attached to them. It all had a manner of things written inside. The letters were very small and bunched together, so I couldn't tell at a glance what it was all about.
What I'd really like to do is search through the National Library for newspapers from the era, but here it is.
A photocopy of a page from some book that was slid into a notebook, and it too was written in small, tight lettering. Like the other pages, I couldn't tell what it was about just by glancing at it.
This is a story that actually happened. It was around the end of the Meiji era. They discovered an unknown mangled corpse, the victim of murder in Onikafuchi village.
An old newspaper clipping attached to the page spoke of something that was no mere rumor or fairy tale.
We don't have most police documents from the time anymore, so it's all based on oral traditions and memories. See, it's not very clear, but it looks like it's cut off from a newspaper from a Meiji era. Never before has there been a corpse treated with such cruelty and inhumanity. Could it be the work of a demon?
Being a copy of a copy, it was very hard to make out. It was more than enough to make me feel strangely tense.
Near the end of the Meiji era, in old Onikafuchi village, a mangled corpse was discovered. The identity of the corpse was unknown. It wasn't even in a state where it could be identified in the first place. It was missing a head. Each limb was separated from the body. Skin had been peeled off the entire body. There had been markings that implied terrible torture in every place imaginable. Not only that, but the belly had been cut open by a sharp knife, with the entrails completely dragged out. The police immediately began investigation, but since they couldn't even determine the identity of the victim, much less the criminal, finding answers was extremely difficult. Do you understand what it must have been like?
I couldn't imagine such a strange sight, even if I tried. This is the first time I'd ever been thankful for my lack of imagination.
The victim was skinned while alive, underwent all kinds of torture, and was killed brutally. The author here also thinks that even after death, the remains were divided and dissected even further, the epitome of inhumanity. I'm of the opinion that the entire process was performed while the person was still alive, though. What do you think, Maibara?
She spoke in a way intended to make me imagine even more vicious things. As my brain was already far over capacity, however, there was no way I could imagine anything more brutal. I broke my gaze from TAKANO's. Those strangely shaped weird tools were all around us. I wonder if you could faithfully reproduce a mutilated corpse discovered at the end of the Meiji era with the tools found in this place. I want to deny it. I don't want to admit something so terrible could have happened at all. Even so, they were so strange, so terrifying. These tools, as if they had seen through my attempt to escape from them, they did nothing but ridicule me silently. So, that creepy incident, what was it in the end?
The author says, regarding Onikafuchi's villages, dreadful customs, they survive into recent post-Meiji days. That perhaps they lasted until around the beginning of the Showa period.
This corpse, which at a glance had been brutally killed after a period of torture, in actuality, however, it was the pitiful sacrificial remains of a man-eater's terrifying feast. The corpse was just leftovers. It was so fantastic, so strange, it didn't even feel real. Was this the extension of the legends too? It happened in the Meiji era, though, which is just too recent to be called a legend. Also, there's a newspaper clipping right there suggesting it. Okay, but even if it really happened, it was a long time ago, right? I mean, the Meiji era ended 100 years ago.
That's all. Only 100 years ago. Besides, it kept happening even after the beginning of the Showa period, like with the uproar around the post-war canned flesh incident. Oh, I apologize. That story was taboo, wasn't it?
Takano immediately stopped talking, as if worried about Shion. Shion briefly looked somewhat angry, but that expression soon disappeared. Huh? Takano, what did you just say? Canned flesh? Just then, there was a huge creaking noise. Everyone whipped around to look. It was Tomitake who had opened the door slightly. Did I startle you? Oh, Jiro, could you not resist seeing inside? This is a splendid treasure trove of torture devices. I'll pass on that. I'm bad with this sort of thing by nature. Takano held her stomach and had to muffle her laughter, as if she wanted to make a comment about his masculinity. In any case, the dance and ceremony are over and everybody's going down to the stream. The festival will be over in minutes. Oh, that's no good. Myra is such a good listener, I couldn't help but telling stories. I'd really not rather you mention me in a place like this. Jiro, could you wait out in front? I want to take a few pictures. There are actually a lot of tools I'd like to bring home, but we obviously can't do that. Takano took a camera out of her paper bag and began to snap photographs. She looked like she was having fun, like she was on a scavenger hunt. Keiichi, are you leaving too? I've seen enough. Shion, you're good too, right? Let's get out of here. I want some fresh air. I agree. Let's leave. I did a bit of hesitation at leaving Takano by herself in this darkness. When I thought about it, though, I realized whatever kinds of evil spirits and ghosts lurk in this darkness, none of them could hold a candle to how scary she was. Even if a phantasm were to appear, she'd be overjoyed and flash her camera at it. It seemed like Shion had shared my somewhat rude mental images. We exchanged glances and smiled painfully. We left Takano there bathed in her strobe of camera flashes and decided to leave the ritual storehouse. Everyone at the festival seemed to have gone to the stream, so their voices were very distant. The voices of the bugs, on the other hand, were clear, letting an empty feeling of isolation in the place. Hold on, give me a moment. I'm gonna check some stuff. I'll be right back. I gotta check my phone. Check the time. Where is my phone? I thought I had it. Hold on. Give me a moment. Where's the phone? Where is my cell phone? Give me a moment. I'm gonna keep reading, but just give me a moment. There's just some things I gotta find. Like, for example, my phone, which I want to find, and check the time. Shit, I wish I could check the time. That would be very nice right now. Where in the world is my phone? I really have to check the time, so just give me a moment. I'll get back to reading as soon as I check the time. Ugh, I don't know what's wrong with my hearing lately. Ugh, I hate growing old. I just saw it and had it too. Ugh. What a nasty pop I just heard. What the hell? Where's my damn phone? I just want to check the goddamn time. just want to check the goddamn time. Give me a moment. I want to check the time. Okay, it's 11. Oops. Okay, the voices of the bugs, on the other hand, were clear, lending an empty feeling of isolation to the place. Is that it? Okay, give me a moment. 11. When did I start reading? Has it been an hour already? I don't remember. Well, let's continue. How was it? Interesting? Tomitake gave us a somewhat mischievous grin. He should have been able to tell by looking at how pale our faces were. I should have kept watch outside with you, Tomitake. Tomitake laughed so delightfully it wiped away our dark feelings. How did you fare, Shion? Were you scared? I was prepared for it, so I wasn't too afraid, but seeing the real thing was powerful. Shion spoke like she wasn't scared at all. She really had been quite afraid, but seeing how I was in a way worse state than her, I didn't have much room to talk. As Tomitake grinned candidly, my mind exhausted, I looked up and locked up my nervousness began to calm itself. Was Takano an adult about this little expedition? You know how she seems like a child sometimes. I was worried she'd be way too excited. Shion and I laughed and left that as our answer. Hopefully she was only looking at things. I'm worried she'll sneak out somewhere out of here or mess with the ritual implement too much and break it or something. Right, that's quite possible. She is alone there right now. She might pilfer something small and easily concealed hiding in her pocket. Yeah, I can see that. You sure she didn't break anything? I could hear some noises like someone jumping up and down. I was getting pretty nervous. I'm sorry. I ran out of film. Jiro, if you have any more, could I use some? Takano suddenly appeared while we were talking about her, taking everyone by surprise. Tomitake smoothly grinned and responded as if nothing had happened. He's pretty mature. I'm all out of spare film. Sorry about that. Jeez. He won't win any Pulitzer Prizes by not stocking enough film for any occasion, you know. I suppose that's it then. Tomitake scratched his head apologetically. Without film, we're done here. Takano seemed to have given up because of that too. We checked carefully to make sure we hadn't left anything inside, closed the door, and turned to the heavy padlock we left beside it. Takano, you didn't sneak anything out, right? How rude. I'm trying not to be that childish. Tomitake set the padlock back to the way it was before. My cursory glance, it didn't look like thieves had snuck in at all. Okay, let's get over to the stream ourselves. If we don't at least set some cotton afloat, there won't be any point in coming to the festival. Tomitake spoke brightly, urging us all on. Setting cotton afloat down the stream. I shake my head a few times, driving away my dismal thoughts as to the double meaning. Takano, looking a little let down, kept turning back to glance at the ritual storehouse. Just leave it at that, alright? You saw enough to sate your curiosity, didn't you? Oh, not at all. Everything I found only renewed my interests. All the stories and legends suddenly hold water. After today, I'm going to have to change the way I look at all this. Wow, she's truly indomitable. Her curiosity is really something else. Still interested in all this through and through. We descended into the stone stairs. All the people crowding the stream came to view. Near the bottom of the stairs, we could clearly see people receiving cotton that had been cut out for them, wishing upon the cotton, sending it afloat down the stream. The festival was already over. Damn, I missed my chance to photograph the best part of Watanagashi. Oh, but it's not too late. I'm going to go and set some afloat. Perhaps you could take pictures of me. Takano, with an impish expression, brought her head to Tomitake's shoulder. Despite his age, he looked embarrassed. I felt an honest respect for Tomitake, man to man, for dating such a handful of a woman. Goodbye then, Maibara, Shion. We're going down to the stream. Would you like to come with us? No, I couldn't get in your way. Please take your time. Shion waved her hand to them with an expression just as impish as Takano's. Tomitake on his part seemed to want us to come, but whatever. Shion gave a big stretch and sat down the stone steps. I'm pretty worn out. Same here. I'm exhausted too. Kei-chan, is this your first Watanagashi, isn't it? You go on. Don't mind me. I'm tired, so I'd like to stay away from the crowd. Yeah, if we were to go now, we'd barely slip into the end of the cotton drifting ceremony. My sister and your other friends might be looking for you too. Go on. Oh, yeah, right. They've been by themselves ever since we got separated. Sorry, I'm eating. I feel bad if they were looking for me. Shion suddenly got a playful look on her face and put her index finger to her lips as if telling me to keep this secret. My sister is the type that gets really jealous. If she knew I was hogging you this whole time, she'd never let me hear the end of it. So, keep tonight a secret, okay? Keep tonight a secret. Don't say things that are so embarrassing. Not only because of that either. Considering what we were doing tonight, we really need to keep it a secret. Oyashiro's curse might happen tonight, and we four would be the prime candidates. The loosening threads of tension became taut again. Shion, however, burst out laughing. Alright, I'm gonna get out of here before I run into my sister. I really am tired, so I don't really have the endurance to put up with her anyway. I can't tell if you get along with her or not. We get along. Though as she said that, her vague expression explained that there were a lot of oddities in the relationship between twins. I'm an only child, so I don't really get it. Make sure you get along with her, okay? Right. Thank you kindly for your meddling. Okay, I'm gonna go. You should hurry up if you want to make it, Kei-chan. Watanagashi is really about to end. Shion stood up and brushed the dust off her backside. After watching her do so, I returned my eyes to the final ceremony of the Watanagashi festival below me. Seriously, though, what was that sound anyway? It was kind of unpleasant and creepy. Huh? What sound? The sound. You know, the banging noise? It was really loud, wasn't it? I was giving her a blank expression, so Shion stared hard at me. I stared hard at her, too. Sorry, Shion. Could you give me a short version? What was making noise? Wait, Kei-chan, it didn't bother you? What's all said and done? It was like we were speaking two different languages. Shion, explain it to me without jokes from the beginning, will you? What's this about a noise? Kei-chan, you quit joking around too. Really, honestly, it didn't bother you? Neither of us was giving any ground. Both of us were staring at each other in disbelief. We were answering questions with more questions, with no sign of actual conversation in sight. Baffled, I felt the urge to shout at her and ask politely one more time. I'm gonna ask one more time, okay? I'll ask the questions. Shion nodded silently. Okay, here goes. You said there was a sound. What are you talking about? The banging sound. It was like a kid jumping up and down floorboards somewhere far away. It really didn't bother you? There was nothing to be bothered by. When did you hear this? I never heard anything. Wait, Kei-chan, are you serious? Shion, as if she didn't understand my plain and simple answer, pressed me further, her expression serious. I have no clue what she's talking about. What if it's Shion acting like this? Whatever it was, it gave me creeps. It sent a chill down my spine. It was while we were looking around inside the ritual storehouse with Takano. About the time she started her stories, I think it was. Little by little, louder and louder, off and on. She heard a banging sound like a child jumping on distant floorboards. That can't be true. Don't start trying to scare me after all that. I didn't hear anything at all. In fact, it was so utterly silent in there, my own heartbeat was almost deafening. Please don't try to scare me either, Kei-chan. It was like something making noise in time with Takano's scary stories, and I was totally creeped out the whole time. The chill rose from my spine to the back of my head. My blood turned cold as it crawled up my body. When it reached my head, my mind froze over. You and Takano weren't paying any attention to it at all, so I pretended not to hear it either, but You heard it, right? It happened a bunch of times and it was really loud. Shion's eyes were begging me to tell her I heard it. I had no doubt, however, my own eyes suggested something entirely different. A "you've got to be kidding" look. In that storehouse, we were surrounded by brutal and ritual tools that looked like they were from another planet, listening to terrifying old stories. The whole time Shion had been hearing a sound that we couldn't hear by herself. Should that make Shion, who heard it, tremble, or should it make me, who didn't hear it, tremble? I didn't know the answer to that at the time. For now, Shion seemed to have made that decision before I did. What are you laughing about? I really got you, Kei-chan. I was fibbing the whole time. What? Shion laughed, saying how easily scared I was, and clapped me on the back. Her smile somehow seemed artificial. It actually made me feel worse. After leaving me with 2 or 3 generic diplomatic goodbye phrases, she left almost like she was running away. All I could do was look after her with my mouth agape. At the end of the day, I didn't have a clue what was going on. Shion laughed it off and said she had been lying, but she couldn't have possibly been lying. Of course not. And now that I think back, Tomitake said the same thing, didn't he? I could hear some noises like someone jumping up and down. I was getting pretty nervous. Tomitake said the most neutral party present at the time, he had said he'd heard something. Then that noise. Was it real? The banging sounds. Sounds as though a child was jumping up and down on some kind of floorboards far away. Oyashiro's curse, which happens every year, might happen again tonight. The most plausible victim candidates were Takano, Tomitake, Shion, and me. The bustling of the people sounded further away than I would have liked. The sounds of the insects sounded too close for comfort. I'm near so much human warmth, and yet I can't ever go back there again. That was the ominous idea that sprouted in my mind. All of a sudden I was pounced on from behind, causing my heart to lurch.
Keiji, we found you.
It was Rika. When I turned around, Mio and Rena were there too. Mio sighed and said, "We finally found you! Now we just need to find Sadako."
Everyone got split up this year. We should make sure we have somewhere to meet up afterwards next year. Huh?
You're right. It's a festival, so we should all be together. I listened to Mion's happy declaration with a little bit of guilt.
Keiji, did you root for me while I was dancing?
Yeah, I saw it all. You did a great job all the way through. No mistakes either.
Yeah, that's right, Rika. That didn't count as a mistake.
I tensed up as I realized I made a mistake of my own. Mio slapped a hand on my shoulder a little roughly. A gross sweat broke out over my whole body. Did you do it too, Kei-chan? Did you get some cotton and send it down the stream? You haven't yet, right? Is what I feel her saying. Without the courage to tell any more lies, I lifelessly shook my head.
Huh? You haven't, Keiji? You should go now or it'll be over. It'll be over.
Sorry. This is my first Watanagashi, so I don't really understand the rules and stuff. That's right. I'm sorry. Mio took my hand. We started walking down the stone steps. Hey, Kei-chan. What? Did you see Shion? My heart skipped another beat. Maybe Mio could sense my surprise through my hand. No. Well, I sort of think I saw her. You two look so alike, though. So it might have been you. You wouldn't have gone that wrong. We're wearing different clothes. Huh? Oh. That's right. Mion's momentary silence was like a death grip upon me. I just can't do anything about that Shion. Well, it's her we're talking about, so we can just leave her be. Mion's expression returned to her former usual smile. We continued down the stone steps, her firmly pulling my hand along. Well, there you go. You see new tips. Scrapbook 4, 5, after the festival. Okay, so let's sleep. Plumbing the depths. And let's view the new tips. From the scrapbook 4. Watanagashi. I'm reading this in my voice. The rite of Watanagashi is performed during a village festival every June, even now, but reading back to its origins turns up a seriously sanguine ceremony. Originally, Watanagashi would happen at fixed intervals. After receiving Oyashiro's trust, they chose a sacrifice. Then the entire village would kidnap, demon away the person, and ceremonially dissect and devour them in the feast. The rules that were determined, the intervals were shrouded in mystery. This is because the ceremonies occurred extremely irregularly. There's a theory that it was determined based on an astrological fortune telling, but it isn't too convincing. The residents of Onikafuchi village were firmly believing that they were half man, half demon transcendents, and they were far more valuable than humans were. They were forced people within and without to accept that. Perhaps the act of kidnapping and eating people was done to prove they were higher up on the food chain. This is just a hypothesis, but maybe the rite of Watanagashi was a political event, for purpose being either an outlet or outright diverting the attention of the villagers of the isolated Onikafuchi village. In any case, their complaints or dissatisfactions grew serious. And that was the main reason these ceremonies were held. It is easy to explain how erratic they were. These should technically be read in Takano's voice, but I'm too lazy. Sorry. Scrapbook 5. The alleged importance of the implements. I can't find anything that gives a concrete description of what the ritual implements were like. They were, however, real, and there definitely existed a multitude of different kinds. One source states, the implements used in Watanagashi rite alone, number 200. The obvious question is why they required such a myriad of them. The rite of Watanagashi was to kidnap people through the demoning away, dissecting, and eating them. I believe the tools for dissection were restraining, but 200 of them is far too many. Generally, tools evolve in a way as such to reach a solution for a certain problem. Once you reach the ultimate goal, that is, attained at a certain level of efficiency, the tool's evolution normally stops there. Regardless, why would they have created so many different kinds? Of the cultural elements responsible for diversification over time is that of entertainment. Tools used for entertainment would evolve over time and branch out. Unlike normal tools, reaching the ultimate goal would be more of a dead end and search for the next goal. They would split into many different subtypes. So perhaps it's not a stretch to suggest that these 200 plus implements had some entertainment value. This is just a hypothesis, of course, but maybe human dissection process was viewed as a type of entertainment. The three families of old would develop one new implement dissection tool one after another. Each was varied, from novel and attractive to spectators to keep them from growing bored. It's not unimaginable. All of them have to be enshrined within that storehouse. There isn't much longer until the night of Watanagashi. Though its original intent has been lost, I will reveal the secrets of the traditional ceremonial night within the ritual storehouse. I can't restrain my excitement. Watanagashi cannot come soon enough. I might read this dramatically depending, but yeah. Late night tensions in the police station were strained. In silence, many staff members' eyes shifted back and forth between the clock, their cell phones, counting the seconds in that stifled atmosphere. Kumagaya burst in with a young guy trailing behind him. Oishi, I got the autopsy results! The court physician just got here. I'm ready to go, sir! I'll head straight for Gifu. Kuma, things have gotten a bit complicated. They appear to have some difficult time determining who the victim is. Could they have been dismembered? Nope. Cooked to a nice light brown. He spoke in sportive tones, but the meaning behind his words was heavy. The staff gave a collective sigh. All the way head to toe. Completely blackened, it seemed. Probably smells terrible, too. What a shame it is to be Gifu-san. What? Cooked, with no possessions? Then discarded outside the prefecture. At worst, it would have taken a week for the body to be identified. The fact that sniffed it out tonight was huge. Komiyama and the others are performing the thorough night raid on the dentist in Okinomiya. All we can hope is a tool that matches some medical records. Sorry, could someone go buy me 2 boxes of Ultra Mild? The young man affirmed an affirmation and darted out to the hallway. We did an excellent job finding it this year. It could be that those people who disappeared past years were scattered outside the prefecture like this too. And why not bury them, or sink them to the Sea of Japan, or Lake Biwa, or somewhere like that? Why, though? Hasn't the pattern so far been one person dies and another person disappears? Kuma. The corpse was inside an oil drum, unrestrained and cooked. They probably burned them after strangling them. They knew it would be found. So what you mean is from the beginning, they didn't want a person to disappear this year? Not so much as they aren't related. The person didn't disappear. In fact, however, who did it seems to have wanted to make a show out of it. You mean it could be a warning? He folded arms and heaved a long and heavy sigh. That might have been the case had it happened down. If they messed up taking the victim far away and burning them alive, it wouldn't have been noticed. If they meant it as a warning, they should have done it closer to Hinamizawa. They wanted to emphasize the fact that they had killed the victim, but instead of doing it somewhere for dramatic effect, they did it outside the prefecture. Oops. Did they want to emphasize it or hide it? Boy, I do wonder what Oishiro is up to this year. Sorry, that's a lot of reading. I'm lazy. A telephone ring cut through the heavy silence. A staff member already snatched up the receiver. Oishi, it's Komiyama! They have it! The dental clinic in Okinomiya fixed the wisdom tooth 3 years ago. What about the records? Complete with x-rays. No, I feel bad for waking up the dentist before dawn. Kuma, get out there as soon as you get the records from Komiyama. Will do. Oh, it's achieved. Thank you for coming out this hour. Oishi, apologies for my lateness. What's the situation? Well, it's just getting good, you see. We're all getting fired up. I don't feel like doing that part, sorry. Alright. Well, we're done here. And we can stop that right now. Yep, we're done. Okay, so alright. Thank you for showing up. I'm done. Thank you, goodbye. Well, I mean, before I go. Okay, yeah. Bye.